Welcome to Physics for Life. This is a quick revision video of chapter Ray Optics and Optical Instruments. Optics. So it is the branch of physics that deals with the study of nature, production and propagation of light. It has two sub-branches, ray optics and wave optics. So let's understand ray optics or geometrical optics. It concerns itself with the particle nature of light and is based on first rectilinear propagation of light and second the laws of reflection and refraction of light. Second, wave optics or physical optics. It concerns itself with the wave nature of light and is based on the phenomenon like interference or diffraction and polarization of light. Now, laws of reflection of light. So, first law, the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane. And second, the angle of incidence I is equal to the angle of refraction R. Angle I is equals to angle R. Now, properties of images formed by plane mirrors. So first, the images formed by the plane mirror is virtual, erect and laterally reversed. Second, the size of the image is equal to the size of the object. Third, the image is as far behind the mirror as the object is in front of the mirror. And fourth, the line joining the object and images is normal to the plane mirror. And last, fifth one is when a plane mirror is rotated through a certain angle, the reflected rays turns through twice this angle. Now next is images formed by inclined mirrors. So when two plane mirrors are kept facing at each other at an angle theta and an object is placed between them, a number of images formed due to multiple reflections. So if theta is the submultiple of 180 degree, then the number of images formed n is equals to 360 upon theta minus 1. It is if theta is not a submultiple of 180 degree, then the number of images formed in the integer next higher than 360 by theta minus 1. For two parallel plane mirrors, n is equals to 360 upon 0, which is equals to infinity. Now next is spherical mirrors. So it is a mirror whose reflecting surface forms a part of a hollow sphere. Spherical mirrors are of two types. First is concave mirror, in which the reflection of light takes place from inner hollow surface. Second is convex mirror, in which the reflection of light takes place from the outer bulge surface. And now definitions in the connection with spherical mirrors. So first is pole. It is the middle point P of the spherical mirror. Second is center of curvature. So it is the center C of the sphere of which the mirror forms a part. And third is radius of curvature. It is radius capital R of the sphere of mirror forms a part. Now next is principal axis. So the line PC passing through the pole and the center of the curvature of the mirror is called principal axis. Fifth is linear aperture. It is the diameter of the circular boundary of the spherical mirror. Now sixth is angular aperture. It is the angle subtended by the boundary of the spherical mirror at its center of curvature C. Next is principal focus. So a narrow beam of light parallel to the principal axis either actually converges to or appears to diverge from a point F on the principal axis after the reflection of the spherical mirror. This point is called the principal focus of the mirror. A concave mirror has a real focus, while a convex mirror has a virtual mirror. And that is eighth property is focal length. So it is the distance F is equals to PF between the focus and the pole of the mirror. And ninth is focal plane. So the vertical plane passing through the principal focus and perpendicular to the principal axis is called the focal plane. When a beam of light is incident on the concave mirror at a small angle to the principal axis, it converges to a point in the focal plane of the mirror. Now New Cartesian sign convention for spherical mirrors. First, all ray diagram are drawn with the incident light traveling from left to right. Second, all distances are measured from the pole of the mirror. Third, all distances measured in the direction of incident light are taken positive. Fourth, all distances measured in the opposite direction of the incident light are taken to be negative. Fifth, heights measured upwards and perpendicular to the principal axis are taken as positive. And sixth, heights measured downwards and perpendicular to the principal axis are taken as negative. Now next is relationship between focal length and radius of curvature of a spherical mirror. So focal length is equals to half of radius of curvature. So f is equals to capital R by 2. In new Cartesian sign convention, the focal length and the radius of curvature are taken as negative for a concave mirror and positive for a convex mirror. Now next is spherical mirror formula. So this gives relation between object distance u and image distance v and focal length f of a spherical mirror. So 1 by u plus 1 by v is equals to 1 by f. Now next is linear or transverse magnification. So it is the ratio of height of the image to the height of the object. So m is equals to height of the image upon height of the object, which is equals to minus v upon u, which is equals to f upon f minus u equals to f minus v upon f. So first, if modulus m is greater than 1, then image is magnified. Second, the modulus m is less than 1, then the image is diminished. And third, if modulus m is equals to 1, then the image is of the same size as the object. And fourth, if m is positive, then the image is virtual and real. And fifth, if m is negative, then the image is real and inverted. Now next is refraction of light. So it is the phenomenon of bending of light from its straight path when it passes at an angle from one transparent medium to another. Now laws of refraction of light. First law, the incident ray, the refracted ray and the normal at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane. Second law, the ratio of the sine of the angle of incidence and the sine of the angle of refraction is constant for a given pair of media. This law is also known as Snell's law of refraction, and sin I upon sin r is equals to mu, a constant. This mu is called the refractive index of the second medium with respect to first medium. Now next is refractive index. So refractive index of a medium for a light of a given wavelength may be defined as the ratio of the speed of light in vacuum to its speed in that medium. So mu is equals to speed of light in vacuum, that is c, and upon speed of that is velocity of light in medium, that is v. And it may also be defined as the ratio of the wavelength of the light in vacuum to its wavelength in that medium. So mu is equals to lambda vacuum upon lambda medium. And the refractive index of a medium with respect to vacuum is also called absolute refractive index. Now next is relative refractive index. So the relative refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1 is the ratio of speed of light v1 in the medium 1 to the speed of light v2 in the medium 2. So 1 mu 2 is equals to v1 upon v2, and 1 mu 2 is equals to sin I upon sin r, which is equals to mu 2 upon mu 1, which is equals to constant, or mu 1 sin I is equals to mu 2 sin r. Next is principle of reversibility of light. So this principle states that if the final path of the ray of light after it has suffered several reflections and refractions is reversed, so it retraces its path exactly. It follows from the this principle that 1 mu 2 is equals to 1 upon 2 mu 1. It means the refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1 is the reciprocal of refractive index of medium 1 with respect to medium 2. Now next is refraction through a rectangular glass slab. So a ray of light on refraction through a glass slab does not suffer any deviation the incident and emergent rays are parallel, but the emergent ray is laterally displaced with respect to the incident ray. So the lateral displacement x on passing through a glass slab of thickness t, and refractive index mu is given as x is equals to t upon cos r into sine in the bracket I minus r, which is equals to t sine I in the bracket 1 minus cos I upon mu square minus sine square I to the power 1 by 2. So where this I is the angle of incidence, and x maximum is equals to t sine 90 degree, which is equals to t. Thus the displacement of the emergent ray cannot exceed the thickness of the glass slab. Now next is refraction through a combination of media. So when a ray of light passes through a combination of media, the quantity mu sine r remains constant, where mu is absolute refractive index of the medium and I is the angle of incidence in that medium. Thus mu air into sine I air is equals to mu glass into sine I glass is equals to mu water into sine I water. Also a mu w, that is air, and w is for water, into w mu g, that is glass, and into g mu a, which is equals to 1, or we can say that mu w mu g is equals to a mu g upon a mu w. Now next is relation between real depth and apparent depth. So due to the refraction of light, the apparent depth of an object placed in a denser medium is less than the real depth. When an object O in a denser medium of thickness t and refractive index mu is seen through a rarer medium, its image is seen at this is the expression. It is seen that mu is equals to real depth upon apparent depth, and also the apparent shift ai is equals to t by mu. And now the height through which an object appears to be raised in a denser medium is called normal shift. So normal shift d is equals to t in the bracket 1 minus 1 upon mu t. And similarly total normal shift of the compound medium is equals to t here t1 and mu1 plus similarly t2 and mu2 up to tn and mu1. Now next is critical angle and total internal reflection. So the angle of incidence in the denser medium, for which the angle of refraction in the rarer medium is 90 degrees, is called the critical angle of the denser medium and is denoted by IC. So when I is equals to IC, then R will be equals to 90 degree, and sin IC upon sin 90 is equals to 1 upon mu, or we can say that mu is equals to 1 upon sin IC. Now next is TIR, that is total internal reflection. So it is the phenomenon of in which a ray of light traveling at an angle of incidence greater than the angle from a denser to rarer medium is totally reflected back into denser medium, obeying the laws of reflection. Now necessary conditions for TIR. This is R, total internal reflection. So first, a light must travel from an optically denser to an optically rarer medium. Second, the angle of incidence in the denser medium must be greater than the critical angle for the media. Now next is relationship between critical angle and refractive index. This is mu is equals to 1 upon sine IC. This is the relationship. Now next is total reflecting prisms. So a right angled isosceles prism, which means 45 degree minus 90 degree minus 40 degree prism. These are the angles. First is 45 degrees and second is 90 degree, and third angle is 45 degree prism is called a totally reflecting prism. It can be used to deviate rays through 90 degree to 180 degree. Now next is mirage. So it is an optical illusion observed in the deserts or over hot extended surfaces like a collateral road due to which a traveler sees a shimmering pond of water some distance ahead him, and in which the surrounding objects like tree etc. appear inverted. Now next is optical fiber. Optical fiber consists of thousands of fine strands of quality glass coated with a material of lower refractive index. So light entering the fiber at one end uh, and undergoes several total internal reflections and finally emerges out without any appreciable change in the intensity. So a bundle of optical fibers is called a light pipe, used in medical and optical examination and in receiving and transmitting the signals in telecommunication. Now next is lenses. So a lens is a piece of refracting medium bounded by two surfaces, at least one of which is curved surface. So first is convex or converging lens. It is the thicker at the center than at the edges. It converges a parallel beam of light on reflecting through it. Its focal length is it has a real focus. Now second is concave or diverging lens. It is thinner at the center than at the edges. It diverges a parallel beam of light on refraction through it, and it has a virtual focus. Next is definitions in connection with spherical lenses. So first is center of curvature. The center of curvature of the surface of a lens is the center of the sphere of which it forms a part. Because the lens has two surfaces, so it has two center of curvature. Next, second is radius of curvature. So the radius of the surface of a lens is the radius of the sphere of which the surface forms a part. And third is principal axis. So it is the line passing through the two centers of curvature of a lens. Fourth one, principal focus. So a narrow beam of light parallel to the principal axis either converges to a point or appears to diverge from the point on the principal axis after refraction through the lens. So this point is called principal focus. A lens has two principal foci. Fifth is optical center. So it is the point situated within the lens through which a ray of light passes undeviated. Next is focal length. So it is the distance between the principal focus and optical center of the lens. And the last one is aperture. So it is the diameter of the circular boundary of the lens. Now next topic is new Cartesian sign convention for spherical lenses. So first, all distances are measured from the optical center of the lens. Second, the distances measured in the direction of incident light are taken as positive. Third, the distances measured in the opposite direction of the incident light are taken as negative. Fourth, heights measured upwards and perpendicular to the principal axis are taken as positive. And fifth one, heights measured downwards and perpendicular to the principal axis are taken as negative. So in this sign convention, the focal length of a converging lens is positive and that of a diverging lens is negative. Now next is refraction through a spherical surface. So a surface which forms part of a sphere of a transparent refracting material is called a spherical refracting surface. So first, refraction from rarer to denser medium. When a ray of light travels from a rarer to denser medium of refractive index mu1 to a denser medium of refractive index mu2 of the spherical surface of radius of curvature capital R, the relation between object distance u and image distance is mu2 upon v minus mu1 upon u is equals to mu2 minus mu1 upon r. And if the rarer medium is air, then mu1 is equals to 1 and mu2 is equals to mu. We have mu upon v minus 1 upon u is equals to mu minus 1 upon r. And second, for refraction from denser to rarer medium, when the object is placed in a denser medium, the relation between u and v can be obtained by interchanging mu1 and mu2. So mu1 upon v minus mu2 upon u is equals to mu1 minus mu2 upon r. Now next is power of a spherical refracting surface. So it is given by P is equals to mu2 minus 1 mu1 upon r, which is equals to mu minus 1 upon r for air, where r is measured in meter. The power of a convex surface is positive and that of a concave surface is negative. Now next is principal focal length of a spherical surface. So first the first principal focal length, its formula is f1 is equals to minus mu1 r upon mu2 minus mu1. It is the distance of a point from the pole of a surface at which if an object is placed, the images is formed at infinity. So next second principal focal length. So it is the distance of a point from the pole of the surface at which the image of an object at infinity is formed. So f2 will be equals to mu2r upon mu2 minus mu1. Now next is lens maker's formula. So this formula relates the focal length f to the refractive index mu and the radii of curvature r1, r2 of its spherical surfaces. So 1 upon f1 will be equals to in the bracket mu2 minus mu1 upon mu, and in the second bracket 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. So for the lens placed in air, 1 upon f is equals to mu minus 1 in the bracket 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. Now next is thin lens formula. This formula gives the relationship between object distance u, image distance v, and focal length f of a spherical lens, convex or concave of small aperture. So 1 upon v minus 1 upon u is equals to 1 upon f. Next is linear magnification produced by a lens. So it is the ratio of the size of the image formed by a lens to the size of the object. So magnification is equals to size of the image upon size of the object. H2 upon H1 equals to V upon U equals to F upon F plus U is equals to F minus V upon F. When M is positive or V is negative, the image is virtual and direct. When M is negative or V is positive, then the image is real and inverted. Now next topic is power of a lens. So the power of a lens is defined as the reciprocal of its focal length expressed in meters. P is equals to 1 upon Fm, and the SI unit of power is per meter, also called diopter. One diopter is the power of a lens whose principal focal length is 1 meter, and P is equals to 1 upon F. This is the formula for power of a lens, which is equals to mu minus 1 in the bracket 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. Now next is lens combinations. So when lenses are used in the combination, each lens magnifies the image formed by the preceding lens. So the total magnification is equal to the product of the magnifications produced by the individual lenses. So m is equals to m1 into m2 into m3 up to mn. And now next is this formula is for the combination of focal length f of two thin lenses of focal lengths f1 and f2 placed in contact is given as 1 upon f is equals to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2. And for n thin lenses in contact, 1 upon f is equals to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2 up to 1 upon f1. Or we can say that p is equals to p1 plus p2 up to pn. And when the two thin lenses are separated by a distance d, their equivalent focal length f is given by 1 upon f is equals to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2 plus d upon f1 upon f2, and p is equals to p1 plus p2 plus d p1 into p2. Now next is prism. So a prism is a portion of a refracting medium bounded by two plane faces inclined to each other at a certain angle. The two plane faces inclined to each other are called refracting faces. The line along which the two refracting faces meet is called the refracting edge of the prism, and the third face of the prism opposite to the refracting edge is called the base of the prism. The angle included between the two refracting faces is called angle of prism. Now here next topic is refraction through prism. So when a ray of light is refracted through a prism, the sum of the angle of incidence I and the angle of emergence I dash is equal to the sum of the angle of prism A and the angle of deviation delta. So A plus delta is equals to I plus I dash, and A is equals to R plus R dash, where R and R dash are the corresponding angles of the refraction at two faces. Now next is relation between refractive index and angle of minimum deviation. So the minimum value of the angle of deviation suffered by a ray on passing through a prism is called the angle of minimum deviation and is denoted by delta m. When a ray of light suffers minimum deviation, then I is equals to I dash plus I is equals to I dash and R is equals to R dash and delta is equals to delta m. Therefore A plus delta m is equals to I plus I, which is equals to 2I, and from this equation we get I is equals to A plus delta m upon 2, and A is equals to R plus R, which is equals to 2R, and from this equation we get R is equals to A by 2, and we know that mu is equals to that is refractive index is equals to sin I upon sin R. So we put R and I here, then we get sin I mu is equals to sin A plus delta m upon 2 upon sin A by 2. Now next is deviation deviation produced by a prism of small angle. So it does not depend on the angle of incidence and is given as delta is equals to mu minus 1 into A. Now next is dispersion. So the splitting of white light into its constituent colors when it is passed through a glass prism is called dispersion. The dispersion of light occurs because the refractive index of prism material is different for different wavelengths. Now next is angular dispersion. The angular separation between the two extreme colors violet and red in the spectrum is called angular dispersion. So its formula is del V minus del R, which is equals to mu V minus 1 into A minus mu R minus 1 into A, and finally we will get mu V minus mu R in the bracket into A. So next is dispersion power. So it is the ability of a prism material to cause dispersion and is defined as the ratio of angular dispersion to the mean deviation. So dispersion power is equals to angular dispersion upon mean deviation, and omega is equals to delta V minus delta R upon delta, which is equals to mu V minus 1 into A minus mu R minus 1 into A upon mu minus 1 into A, which will be equals to mu V minus mu R upon mu minus 1. So here delta is equals to del V plus del R by 2 and mu is equals to mu V plus mu R by 2. Now next is pure and impure spectra. The spectrum in which the component colors of spectra of different rays overlap each other and the various colors are not distinctly seen is called an impure spectra, and a spectrum in which there is no overlapping of colors and different colors are distinctly seen is called the pure spectrum. Now next is spectroscope or spectrometer. So it is an optical device used for producing and studying the spectrum of various light sources. It consists of three main parts: collimator, prism table and telescope. Now next is spectroscope or spectrometer. So the inability of a lens or spherical mirror of a large aperture to bring the parallax and marginal rays of a wide beam of light to focus at a single point is called spherical aberration. So spherical aberration. Now next is chromatic aberration. So the inability of a lens to bring the light rays of different colors to focus at a single point is called chromatic aberration. So longitudinal chromatic aberration of a lens is equals to dispersive power into focal length of the lens for mean color. So FR minus FV is equals to omega into F. Now next is blue color of the sky. So according to the Rayleigh's law of scattering, the intensity of light wave length lambda present in the scattered light is inversely proportional to the fourth power of wavelength. So I is inversely proportional to lambda to the power 4. So blue color of sunlight is scattered more by the atmospheric molecules, due to which the sky appears blue. Now next is rainbow. So it is nature's most spectacular display of spectrum of light produced by refraction, dispersion and total internal reflection of sunlight by several raindrops. So it is observed when the sun shines on raindrops after a shower. An observer standing with his back towards the sun observes it in the form of concentric circular arcs of different colors in the horizon. So here subtopic primary rainbow. So primary rainbow is the brighter with its inner edge violet and outer edge red, subtending a 41 degree to 43 degree angle at the observer's eye. Secondary rainbow is fainter with its inner edge red and outer edge violet, subtended at 51 degree to 54 degree angle at the observer's eye. So now next is human eye. So you can click on the eye tab and watch a quick revision video of human eye. So it is most important and sensitive organ. The essential parts of human eye are iris, pupil, crystalline lens, ciliary muscle, aqueous humor and vitreous humor and retina, etc. So it is a convex lens of focal length about 2.5 centimeter. Now accommodation. I explained this also in that video. So it is the ability of the eye lens due to which it can change its focal length so that images of object at various distances can be formed at the same retina. Now next is range of normal vision. So the distance between infinity and 25 centimeter point is called the range of the normal vision. Next is least distance of distinct vision. The minimum distance from the eye at which the eye can see objects clearly and distinctly without any strain is called the least distance of distinct vision, and for a normal eye its value is 25 centimeter. Next is near point and far point. So near point, the nearest point from the eye at which an object can be seen clearly by the eye is called near point. The near point of normal eye is 25 centimeter, and far point, the farthest point from the eye at which an object can see clearly by the eye, is called the far point of the eye. For a normal eye, the far point is infinity. Now next is power of accommodation. So the power of accommodation of the eye is maximum variation of its power for focusing on near and far objects. For a normal eye, the power of accommodation is about 4 diopters. Now next is persistence of vision. The phenomenon of continuation of the impression of an image on the retina for some time even after the light from the object is cut off is called persistence of vision. So the impression of the image remains on the retina about 1/16th of the second. And now next is rods and cones. So rods, these are the rod shaped cells of the retina that are sensitive to the intensity of light, and cones, these are the cone shaped cells of retina that are sensitive to the colors of light. Now next is color blindness. So a person who cannot distinguish between various colors but can see well otherwise is said to be colorblind. It is due to the lack of some cones in the retina of the eye. Now next is cataract. So it is due to the development of hazy or opaque membrane over the eye lens which results in decrease or loss of vision. It can be cured by surgery. Now next is common defects of vision. So there are mainly 4 common defects of vision. which can be corrected by use of suitable eyeglasses lens, and these are first myopia or nearsightedness, second is hypermetropia or farsightedness, third is presbyopia, and last one is astigmatism. So astigmatism, let's understand what is this. So it is a defect of vision in which a person cannot simultaneously see both horizontal and vertical views of an object with the same clarity. It is due to the irregular curvature of the cornea. It can be corrected by using a cylindrical lens. Now next is a simple microscope. So it is a convex lens of short focal length. When the object is placed between the lens and its focus, and the eye is held just behind the lens, a virtual, erect and enlarged image is seen. When the final image is formed at the least distance of distinct vision, the magnifying power magnifying power of a simple microscope is m is equals to angle subtended by the image of the least distance of distinct vision upon angle subtended by the object at the least distance. So these are the formula. First is m is equals to 1 plus d upon f, and m is equals to 1 plus d minus a, that is for I is from distance a from the lens, and this is for simple microscope, and second formula is m is equals to d by f. M is equals to d by f. This is the magnifying power when the final image is formed at infinity, and this formula m is equals to 1 plus d by f, magnifying power when image is formed at the least distance of distinct vision. Now next is compound microscope. So these are the formula for compound microscope. M is equals to m1 into m2, and m is equals to beta by alpha is equals to minus v naught upon u naught, 1 plus d by fe equals to L upon f naught, 1 plus d by fe, and m is equals to L upon f naught into d by fe. Next is astronomical telescope. So m is equals to beta by alpha is equals to minus f naught upon fe in the bracket 1 plus fe upon d. L is equals to f naught plus u, which is equals to fe d upon fe plus d, and m is equals to beta by alpha, which is equals to minus f naught upon fe. And next is L is equals to f naught plus fe, for f naught is much greater than fe. So now next is terrestrial telescope, so which is used on this earth for seeing farther objects. So m is equals to f naught upon fe, that is, and fo upon fe, and L is equals to fo plus 4f plus fe, and m is equals to fo upon fe 1 plus fe upon d. Next is Galileo's telescope. M is equals to f naught upon fe, L is equals to f naught minus fe, and last one is reflecting telescope. M is equals to f naught upon fe in the bracket 1 plus fe upon d, and m is equals to f naught upon fe is equals to r by 2 upon fe. Thank you for watching the video.